In 1915, during a lecture in St. Petersburg, a student asked Gurdjieff the question everyone wanted to ask: "Master, does reincarnation exist?" Gurdjieff looked at him and replied with something that silenced the room: "The soul is a luxury." And then he completely changed the subject. Whenever someone asked about reincarnation, Gurdjieff avoided answering directly. But there was a profound reason for it. And when you understand what he truly taught, you realize that his view on the afterlife is much more radical than any religion has ever proposed. Because here is the disturbing truth: Gurdjieff did not believe that everyone has a soul. And without a soul, there is nothing to reincarnate. Stay until the end, because I'm going to show you exactly what he taught about eternal recurrence, and why it completely changes how you should live your life today. Georgy Ivanovich Gurdjieff was born between 1866 and 1877 in the Caucasus region. For over 20 years, Gurdjieff traveled through Central Asia, Afghanistan, Tibet, and the Middle East, seeking esoteric knowledge in isolated monasteries. He called himself a seeker of truth. In 1912, he returned to Europe completely transformed. And he began teaching something called the Fourth Way. But there was something disturbing about his teachings. Gurdjieff said that most people were literally asleep. Not metaphorically, he meant that you, awake now, are in a state of deep sleep. And if you are asleep, you have no real consciousness. And if you have no real consciousness, then, according to Gurdjieff, you have no soul. Gurdjieff's most shocking statement was direct: you are not born with a soul. You have to create it. Peter Uspensky, his most important disciple, documented this. According to him, Gurdjieff explained that having a soul was not a birthright, it was an achievement. He said, an ordinary man is just a body. When the body dies, he dies completely. Only those rare ones who have developed a soul survive death. Gurdjieff used an Eastern allegory called the allegory of the carriage to explain: the carriage is the body, the horses are the emotions, the coachman is the mind. Inside the carriage should be the true inhabitant, the inner self. But here is the problem: in most people, the carriage is empty. There is no one inside. The carriage rolls around, mechanically, with no real purpose. So, if most people don't have a soul, what happens when we ask about reincarnation? Gurdjieff's answer was even more radical. Whenever directly asked about reincarnation, Gurdjieff spoke of something different: eternal recurrence. The theory was this: you do not reincarnate into a new, different life. You live the same life, repeatedly, forever. The same events. The same choices. The same mistakes. Everything exactly the same, in an infinite loop. When Uspensky asked about this, Gurdjieff replied, "What is the use of a man knowing about repetition if he is not conscious of it and if he does not change himself? In other words, if you are asleep in this life, you will be asleep in the next repetition too. Eternally." But here is where it gets interesting. Gurdjieff did not see this as a curse. He saw it as an opportunity. Because if you awaken, you can change the pattern. Documents from Gurdjieff's students describe something called the law of recurrence, the mechanics of how this works. The idea is this: events do not happen randomly. They follow patterns based on your inner being. If you were an adulterer at 30 in one life, the impulse is recorded. In the next recurrence, the same eye of adultery resurfaces. And you do the same thing. Again. Rodney Collin, another important disciple, explored how recurrence related to the Fourth Way. But here is what will bother you: you have a tiny margin of freedom. Almost everything in your life is mechanical. Automatic reactions. You are not really choosing, you are being driven by forces you don't understand. So how do you escape? How do you break the cycle? Gurdjieff's answer was both simple and extremely difficult. Gurdjieff taught that the ordinary man lives on three levels: the physical body, the astral body, emotions, and the mental body, thoughts. But there are higher levels that need to be conquered through deliberate inner work. The method? Something he called self-remembering, being present and conscious in every moment, observing yourself without judgment. It sounds simple, but try doing it for 60 seconds. Gurdjieff was not limited to theory. He used sacred dances, called movements. He used music composed with his disciple Thomas de Hartmann. He created situations of intentional shock, moments of deliberate discomfort to awaken consciousness. The goal? To develop real consciousness. To create a permanent center of presence. To literally build a soul. And here is the final detail that connects everything: if you can awaken in this life, you alter the next recurrence. The initial version of Uspensky's novel, The Strange Life of Ivan Ossikin, was entirely pessimistic about recurrence. There was no way out. But after meeting and studying with Gurdjieff, Uspensky rewrote the ending. change was possible. If you develop consciousness in this life, you can create tendencies that affect the next recurrence. It's not about preparing to remember the next life. It's about transforming your inner being. Gurdjieff once said, if you want tomorrow to be different, you must make today different. It's not about believing or not believing in recurrence. It's about waking up now, in this moment. Because if recurrence truly exists, you are living this exact moment infinitely many times. And if it doesn't, you only have one chance. Either way, the answer is the same: wake up. Gurdjieff's view on reincarnation, or rather, on recurrence, was not meant to comfort. It was meant to shock you out of your sleep. If this video made you think, leave a like and tell me in the comments, do you believe we live this life only once, or are we trapped in an eternal loop? And more importantly, would that change how you live today? And if you haven't subscribed yet, click the button because the next video will reveal why Gurdjieff was considered a charlatan by some and a saint by others, and what recently revealed documents show about his true mission. You can't miss it.